Hello again, sociologists in training. We continue our study of community. Not the TV show, but the concept. Okay, lesson 7. Okay, people, we've got 2 learning goals for today. First thing, you're going to know what the global village and digital divide are. Um, Again, things that you probably already know about, but maybe didn't know that they had these names. And secondly, you're going to be able to apply a theory. You're going to apply the theory of the global village to the idea of digital divide. That's going to be our activity for today. Okay, the impact of ICT, remember that's information and communication technologies. Think phones, internet. Yep, huge impact on communities. So communities used to be geographically bound. Everybody in a community had to live together because there was no way to communicate over long distances. That's not the case anymore. Yeah, look at that. I preempted my dot point. There you go. So, Marshall McLuhan wrote a book called The Global Village, and now this is a pretty common term these days. It's the idea that the world has been made smaller by the media, so everyone in the whole world can view the same news item, they can view the same TikTok video, they can view the same Facebook post or Twitter feed or whatever. It's obviously made smaller by technology, in particular the internet. I mean, let's be honest, phones these days are mostly used for accessing the internet. And the global economy. So economies are massively interlinked these days. You see, a shirt that you might be wearing is designed in California, made in China from materials from the Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, who knows, yeah. The economy is massively interconnected. And so if there's a problem in one economy, it becomes a problem in a lot of different economies. That's why the coronavirus has had such a huge impact on countries who are reliant on imports and exports, places like Australia. So this is the book, Marshall McLuhan, The Global Village. Oh, there was a co-author as well. Whatever. Transformations in World Life and Media in the 21st century, which was last century, obviously. And there's a sweet as Mebius strip there. Anyway, this is a really cool map. This is all of the... Now, I always was under the impression that the internet was all done through airwaves and satellites and stuff. Now, some of it might be, but actually the majority of internet traffic is done through cables. This is a map of all of the undersea cables that bring internet to different places. So there's a heap of cables going from the US to Europe. So these are massive chunky cables that are laid that basically just sit along the bottom of the ocean. Who knew? So continuing on, information and communication technologies can help those in isolated communities. Yeah, a lot of people in isolated communities don't have access to all kinds of services, but with the internet they can do. So education, you can do, there's heaps of online learning that you can do. There's a whole university system, Open University, where you can get university degrees purely online. There's also a lot of I did a teaching round at a rural school, and their year 12 biology class wasn't enough biology students to have a whole class, so one teacher from the district would have a big video conference with all the students, and one biology teacher would teach students from 4 schools all at once. So there you go, ICT can help access to education. However, lots of government services are now online only. So if you don't have good internet, then you cannot access government services. So paradoxically, while ICT can help isolated communities access more government services, if those communities don't have good internet, then they miss out. And guess what? It's our rural, regional and remote communities that have the worst internet. Australia's internet overall is really, really shocking compared to the rest of the world, but especially in regional areas. Any of you who live rurally now or in the past will know what I'm talking about. So here's proof. This is a map of internet coverage in Australia Now, for those of you like me that live in Melbourne, you'll be used to 4G, yeah? So it's only the stuff in dark blue that has 4G. I mean, this map's like a few years old, but still roughly about right. So, you can't even really see the dark blue because it's only in the capital cities, Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, maybe a bit of Darwin. Decent internet speed is light blue. And then the majority of Australia has appalling internet speed, or they only have Telstra mobile satellite. Yeah, so everything in white, your internet is going to be rubbish. So there's a thing called the digital divide. It's the gap between those with or without good ICT access. Yeah, so do you have good internet or not? That decides which side of the digital divide that you're on. Why is there a digital divide? Some people are poor, some people don't have good digital literacy skills, but in particular in Australia, poor infrastructure is a reason for the digital divide. Remember, rural, regional and remote communities don't have good internet, so whether they're poor or not, whether they're digitally illiterate, doesn't really matter because there's poor internet infrastructure where they live. I mean, it's not a large number of people that don't have good internet in Australia, but it's really bad if you don't, yeah? So there's, farms are heavily machine run these days, so we don't need large numbers of farmers out there to work those farms. But, yeah, because so much of Australian life is online these days. If you don't have good internet, then you're screwed. So, who misses out? Who are on the other side of the digital divide? I'm on the good side of the digital divide. I've got great internet access. I've got devices and screens coming out my ears. Who misses out? It's the same people who always miss out. The poor, the old, disabled people, uneducated people, people who haven't finished high school, Indigenous Australians, the unemployed, and those that do not live in capital cities. Yeah, the internet outside of the capital cities is not that flash. Here's a choice infographic about the digital divide made by some uni students. I don't know if you can read all this. I might read it up for you. So it defines what the digital divide is. Who does it? It should be affect, not effect. So it affects the poor. So have a look at that. There's percentages. This is all US data, and then there's also an interesting comparison there. Look, Australia's got one of the highest internet uses in the world. 93% of Australians have access to the internet. There you go. But look at Ethiopia, only 8%. So the digital divide within Australia is of a certain size, but the digital divide between countries is much, much greater. Okay, today's activity. What I want you to do, you're going to take the theory of the global village, that we're all one, that the world is one big village these days, rather than a collection of separate countries, to the concept of the digital divide. So how does the global village affect the digital divide? How does the digital divide affect the global village? Are the two ideas related? What's similar about them? What's different about them? I want you to answer that question applying the theory in one paragraph with a minimum of 5 sentences. And you can apply it any way you like. So you can answer those two questions in the middle dot point there, or any other ones that you think will help apply the theory of the global village to the concept of the digital divide. Our first video today is about the global village theory, so check it out.
But not only is the world getting smaller, it's becoming more available and more familiar to our minds and to our emotions. The world is now a global village. A global village.
Global Village Theory by Cicely Spica. This is Canadian media theorist Marshall McLuhan. He was the first person to popularize a revolutionary concept that fundamentally changed how people thought about media, technology, and communications to this day. He coined the term global village theory in the year 1964. In one of his books, he states that it is one world interconnected by an electronic nervous system, making it part of our popular culture before it actually happened. McLuhan's theory is a theory to describe the phenomenon of the world's culture shrinking and expanding at the same time due to persuasive technological advances that allow for instantaneous sharing of culture. It is an electronic nervous system that is rapidly integrating the planet. Events in one part of the world could easily be experienced from other parts, similar to the human experience of small village living. Here are a few examples of events that had connected people from all over the world thanks to technology.
The Olympic Games originated in ancient Greece more than 3,000 years ago and revived in the 19th century. From the 8th century before Christ to the 4th century Anno Domini, games were held in every 4 years in Olympia, located in western Peloponnese Peninsula, in honor of the Greek god Zeus. The first modernized Olympic Games took place on the year 1896 in Athens. There were 280 participants from 13 nations competing in 43 events. In 2016, the Summer Games held in Rio de Janeiro drew an audience of 3.6 billion viewers. Keep in mind, there are only about 7.4 billion people on the planet. That is nearly 50% of the entire world that watched the 2016 Olympic Games.
On July 20, 1969 at 9:32 a.m., the world as we know changed forever. Apollo 11 launched into Earth's orbit, carrying the first man walking on the moon. At approximately 4:18 p.m., lunar module lands. It's now 10:56 p.m., and Neil Armstrong is the first human being to step foot on another planet.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
More than 500 million people watched this event live right on their televisions at home.
The World Cup. The first competition for the Cup was organized in 1930 by the Fédération Internationale de Football Association. The first Cup was won by Uruguay. Since then, the World Cup has been held every 4 years to this day, with the exception of during World War II. It has only proven to be more watched with every passing competition. Conviva CEO Bill Demas stated that the 2018 World Cup held in Russia has proven to be a record-breaking event for streaming TV. We're continuing to see off-the-chart worldwide engagement.
Our second video today is a short clip from the ABC News channel. Fears the digital divide could mean disadvantaged children left behind. Now, for those of you who experienced the coronavirus lockdown recently, you'll know if you didn't have good internet, it really severely harmed your ability to learn remotely.
Do you want me to hold his hand to embarrass him?
Ryan Hicklin is so keen to learn, he likes to wear his school uniform, even when he's remote learning. The teenager's grandma is his main carer. With just a prepaid phone and no home computer, the family feared Ryan's dream of joining the Navy was heading out with the tide.
I can just about answer a telephone when it rings, but that's about it. That's the limit of my electronic knowledge.
The way we talk to each other when we're, at home, it wasn't possible basically for me.
Ryan's dreams are back on track, thanks to the donation of a laptop and mobile internet connection. He's back at school to test it out.
I'm able to speak freely with teachers, students, friends. I'm able to socialise better.
We're pensioners, and we certainly didn't have the capacity to purchase electronic equipment, so that side of it was fabulous, that it was sort of given to Ryan to be able to do it.
Excellent. So what's that? What's the task?
Ryan's principal says other families also needed help.
Some parents have come in and been emotional in a sense that they've, broken down in tears and just overwhelmed by the support.
How is it?
It's working very well.
The devices come from State Schools Relief, a charity that's been inundated with requests due to coronavirus.
The need has been huge. In the last 2 weeks, we have provided over 800 laptops, 3,000 dongles for internet connectivity.
While all states now have a timetable to return to the classroom, the true impact on students won't be known for some time. Education experts fear thousands could have their connection to schools lost forever. Ryan Hicklin says he won't be one of them.
What I want to be, which is become an officer, I've got to have a Year 12 certificate, and with all this that's happened, I definitely was believing that I was going to struggle a lot.
Now marching into a brighter future. Connor Duffy, ABC News.
Okay, reflection activity today. A really good way to try to understand new concepts is to come up with an analogy. An analogy is where something is like something else, okay? So the global village, this idea that we're all in one giant village because we're so super connected by ICT these days, the global village is like, and you have to finish that sentence, making an analogy. So your homework task for today, read page 141 in your textbook, and there's a content test based on the last 6 pages of stuff. Just go to bit.ly/sociology quiz 12. Keep doing that until you can get 100%, just to revise the content knowledge that we've learnt in the last few lessons. Thank you so much for participating in today's lesson, and do not ever forget to keep it real.